Hare Krishna. Okay. Reading from the Antya-lila, chapter 4 of the Caitanya-bhāgavata. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hena Mate Shri. Wait. 397. Mādhava-purīra ārādhanā puṇya-tithi daiva-yoge upasanna haila tathi. By divine arrangement, the auspicious appearance day of Śrīla Mādhavendra Purī arrived. Om Vijnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Caitanya-bhāgavata Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasade Gaur Bhaktavrida. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, greetings from Sridham, Mayapur. I'm sorry I couldn't make the class last Sunday, but it was the day that I arrived. Yeah, and I'm glad I'm reading Caitanya-bhāgavata here in Odarya Dham, the land of magnanimity. Mercy or kindness. Mercy means that you get more than you deserve. And it's basically the basic principle of devotional service. But no spiritual path is independent of worship or bhakti. Because every path, once you're entangled in the material world, since time immemorial, you really need more than what you deserve, more than what you can actually achieve by your own effort. And that's why bhakti is the path of grace. Even in the Yoga Sutras, when they give different options for meditation, and then they mention, well, you can also worship God, Ishvara Pranidhanva, or you can worship Ishvara. All the commentators describe how by the process of grace, it's actually impossible on the path of yoga. I've explained this many times. I studied the Yoga Sutras. Just there's 7 platforms of samadhi, and the first platform is holding one object in your mind without any other thought for like an hour and 25 minutes, something like that. But we can't even do it for one mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra. No other thought, not even a cognizance of any other thought. That's the first stage. And then there's another stage and another stage. It's not possible. You need grace. You need the person who has created the mind and created the material nature to remove it by grace. And we all realize that we need grace. It's the Prabhupada described, especially in Kali Yuga, Prabhupada described, not Prabhupada. Well, Prabhupada translated it this way, but there's a verse in the Bhagavatam where the sages in Namasharanya are seeing the future and seeing what we have to face. And then they say, Piyenalpa Yasha Shubha Kalavas Minyuge Jana Manda Sumanda Mateo Manda Bhaga Upa, that people will be short-lived, and anyway, the Prabhupada's commentary is this present world is surcharged with opposition to spiritual life. And spiritual life basically means selflessness. It means service and selflessness. It means that liking for service and selflessness. And how everything in the world is programming people to not be the center, but want to be the center. And there's so many challenges just in these little machines that we're looking for. I'm preparing a Monday morning greeting. One second. And someone gave me a documentary. Someone gave me a documentary, and I don't watch many of these things. It was called The Social Dilemma. And it was produced by someone for the Society for Humane Technology. And it was people that were, very high up in the, I guess they call it big tech, and describing what they do, how it's so subtly organized to manipulate you by people who have different goals. If you have a spiritual goal, they have different goals. And how expert. I mean, when I actually put together the, basically their whole thing is, how can I get the person to change their mind based on some commercial interest? And they are expert at it. You don't understand how expert they are. So we have so many different, and therefore we need grace, and therefore I have to say it's something to visit Sri Mayapur, because there definitely is magnanimity here. Yeah, magnanimity. I made a joke today. Today I was invited. There's one devotee, Naresh Schwartz, been here forever, and he's expert at pizza. And he invited me, Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Niranjan Swami. And in my mind, I said, what a drag. I'm going to take pizza with people that are going to make me look like a glutton. I mean, I want someone next to me who's going to continue to take the slices so I won't feel so bad. But somehow they didn't disappoint me. And Bhaktivedanta Goswami has invited me to do I think it's time, a Panch Karma in South India with him. You get purified. And I was thinking, and I'm eating, I said, okay, it's horrible. It's horrible. I mean, yesterday I had falafel, and then the day before that, something else, and the day, and then tomorrow, a Bengali feast, and it's one day after another. And I just thought, it's like the 8th offense to health. Overeating on the basis that an Ayurvedic treatment later on will purify you. So, but by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I'm doing pretty good. Oh, and then Niranjan Swami, he'll have his Vyas Puja in January, but it was his regular birthday. So he just invited some god brothers and god sisters. It's just a few of us. Wow. Let me just show you just if you can see the sweets. That's half of them. So, okay. So, wow, Gaur Leela is so nice, and Lord Chaitanya is he's in Shantipur. His mother came to visit him. And then we had this scene where he was very, very heavy with someone who offended a Vaishnava. He wouldn't give him mercy at all, in one sense. And that person had to go to the person that he offended. And that's also a kind of mercy. Asochan anvasochas tvam pragyavadam shabashase gatasu nagatasu cha nanu sochanti pandita. Although speaking learned words, you're a fool. This is Krishna is telling Arjuna. For the wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. That doesn't mean they're not compassionate, but they lament for the person. Not that they're dying, but that they're identifying with the body and therefore suffering the illusion of non-existence. So that doesn't mean they're not compassionate. But it says the duty of the spiritual master is, the first thing is he's chastising the disciple. So sometimes Lord Chaitanya's mercy, what is it, 80% rose, 20% thunderbolt. So, and then Krishnadas Kaviraj then makes some point how, let me just kind of forgot how to express it. How we shouldn't take sides among Vaishnavas who have different opinions Anyway, we come to the next scene, and it's just this following of Lord Chaitanya. It's Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's literally Chaitanya life force, Charita character, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the character of the life force and immortality, which is the eternal position is service. That's who we are. And when we identify with that, we become free from fear, because when we're in a mood of service, devotional service, when we're in that mood of service, and therefore performing activities of service, we're acting according to the true identity, which doesn't end with the body. What is the greatest fear? Neha bikamanashosti pratyavayo navidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate matovi. What is the greatest fear? What is the greatest fear? The greatest fear is that your future is non-existence. That's the greatest fear. And when you come to devotional service and you perform devotional activities, then the person who's doing those activities and the activities that you're doing, you have that sense of eternality. Anyway, so we're following this character of the life force in eternality. When people act on the platform of the soul, and therefore they become free from vayam dvitiya binivesi tashat, from the duality and fear that arise when one misidentifies with the body, which is vikara. It's undergoing transformations. It's not us that are transforming, it's the body that's transforming, and our suffering is due to the identification with it. So we see Lord Chaitanya and his devotees and how they're exchanging on a platform which is of the soul. It's a soul. Until we get to that platform, we're just going to be filled with fear. When you act on the platform of the body, it means you're identifying with being the enjoyer and controller. And that's a losing proposition, because we're not the controllers of the world. And if that's your desire to enjoy by controlling it, you'll always be frustrated, because we can't control it. And we all see that. It just moves against our selfish desires, our self-centered desires. It just moves against it. And to the degree that we're attached to that identity, we suffer until we change our faith and change our identity from the enjoyer and control to the servant of Krishna, because then we become free from the external changes. There was a wonderful book about the Stoics that was sent to me by Mahamuni, Professor Mathadasti, Epictetus, brilliant. And he said, well, happiness, distress, health, sickness, slander, praise, that's all coming from God, because he's controlling the world, not us. So why should we care for it? So anyway, we're seeing this wonderful platform and how Lord, and now in this kind of thing that we're privy to see, the guru of Advaita Acharya, who is the guru of Lord Chaitanya's guru, Ishvara Puri. So his Param Guru, Advaita Acharya's guru, it's his appearance day, and the appearance day is described as auspicious. And it says in the Bhakti Sandarbha that for these great spiritual personalities, just like we worship Krishna, not like Krishna is a historical figure, we worship him that as he's an eternal reality. We don't think that Krishna is not dancing with the gopis now. We don't think that Krishna has died. And in the same way, in the Bhakti Sandarbha, it says we should have that same type of conception to the great acharyas that pass away. He reasons ill who say that Vaishnavas die, for Vaishnavas die to live, and living spread the holy name around. So we should feel that way. We shouldn't feel that Prabhupada's a historical figure. He's Nitya Lila Pravishta. He's entered into Nitya Lila, something that happens all the time to the eternal presence. So on those appearance days, when you have that focus, there is definitely some reciprocation, some mercy that comes. Mādhava-tithi Bhakti Janani, Bhaktivinoda Thakur prays that the days of Lord Hari give birth to devotion. So there's a special type of mercy on those days, especially when you follow them, when you fast and you increase your chanting and hearing, then there's something special that happens. So so somehow this day happens. Now, after this scene where Lord Chaitanya chastises this person who has offended Srivas, and then he takes shelter of Srivas. Now this happens. And we get insight to another tattva or truth. Of course, Mādhavendra Purī is the tree. He's really where this spontaneous devotional service entered into the Madhva-Gaudiya, Brahma Madhva-Gaudiya Sampradaya. Somehow or other, he had this spontaneous devotion, which really wasn't there in the line of Madhva before. It's a very, very special thing. And I was just reading in the Chaitanya Charitamrita how much Rupa Goswami and Ramananda Roy were appreciating the poetry of Lord Chaitanya, of Śrīla Rupa Goswami. And one of the verses that he chanted, I think it's the introduction to Vidagdha Madhava or something about Lord Chaitanya, Anarpita, never before given, Charim Charat for a long time, Anarpita Charim Charat Kunayavatar. Samarpiyata ujvatojvalam rasa. This spontaneous devotion. So Mādhavendra Purī is a very, very special personality. So it goes on, although there is no difference between Mādhavendra Purī and Advaita, Acharya Gosai was Mādhavendra Puri's disciple. So these are all exalted personalities, Mahabhagavats, and therefore there's no difference. But one is the guru and one is the disciple. And in that role, then there's a certain relationship. So now he goes on, and this is Krishna Das Kaviraj. He really wants us to get this point right. Mādhavendra Purī Dehe Shri Gora Sunda Satya 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 Vihare Nirantara. Satya Satya Satya, this is a fact, this is a fact, this is a fact. And what is the fact? That Nirantara, constantly, Dehi Shri Gaurasunda, that Lord Chaitanya constantly resided in the body of Mādhavendra Purī. Constantly resided in the body. By the thoughts of Mādhavendra Purī, by the super soul, which is non-different than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but it's constantly within his consciousness. And that's what the highest level of bhakti means. The highest level of bhakti is prema. And the example given in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of prema is Bhishmadev. That person who fought in so many battles, that person who spoke on so many subjects, then at the end of his life, he fixed his mind on Krishna. The fifth characteristics of pure devotional service at the level of prema bhakti is sandrandana visheshatma. Sandrandana visheshatma. Chandra means like metal. It's not porous. So the consciousness of a pure devotee is not porous in the sense there's no other thoughts but Krishna that can enter into that consciousness. And that happens at the level of prema. So that's Mādhavendra Purī. There's nothing else. There's no other thoughts. And we have to move towards that. That's what I like to be in the Dham. You sometimes see devotees that are actually at that platform. There's nothing but chanting and hearing and serving in their lives. And it's inspiring, and that kind of association, because the most powerful manifestation of philosophy is the people who actually follow it, because then we can see the glory of the philosophy. Otherwise, we may filter through our own intelligence and our own past experience. I'm giving class twice a week here. Really wonderful to do that in the house here. They have one hall downstairs. And I was speaking that one realization I had, because I'm up to the rasa dance, and I was explaining to people, I'm not jumping, but I actually started reading Krishna book, and this is where I'm up to. And I explained two personal realizations I had. The first one was, I was reading Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya-lila 1, and Bhakta Rupa Goswami, Bhakta Rupa, this new devotee Lord Chaitanya introduces. Of course, a new devotee who before he came to Krishna consciousness wrote Hamsadutta. So he had some Purva Samskar, which Hamsadutta is. Actually, this book Hamsadutta is a very special book by Rupa Goswami. It's a very interesting story. And it's very interesting the first time I heard this story. It was twice that Śrīla Narayan Maharaj asked me to hide him in Vrindavan. once was when the Hindus took down the Babri Musket, the mosque that was built on the birthplace of Ram. And now they've actually made a settlement where they're building a huge temple of Ram on the actual birthplace. And there's another piece of land that was given to build the mosque. But the Hindus took that down, and the government was very upset, and they were rounding up all Hindu leaders. So Narayan Maharaj was afraid he was going to be arrested. So he contacted me, and I hit him. I hit him nearby the Krishna Balar Mandir. So I went one day to see how he was, and he was so peaceful, because when you're a leader, it's just nonstop. So many people come to see you, but here it was like a vacation for him. So I came in there and with Burijan Prabhu to see how he was doing, and he said, "Oh, I've been just reading this book, Hamsadutta," and then he started to tell us the story of Hamsadutta. Hamsadutta means messenger, and Hamsa means swan. And the story was that Sri Radha, she goes with her friends to the bank of the Jamuna, and then she sees a kunj or flower bower where she was with her friends, with Krishna. And Krishna now has gone to Mathura, and the Jamuna flows towards Mathura. And Krishna already left. And Radharani saw it and she fainted. And then Lalita thought that Radharani was going to die, so she went to the Jamuna to get some water, and she sees a swan. And she sees that the swan, of course, is going upstream and is going to go to Mathura, and then begins to give a message for Krishna. You know, that small calf now has a huge milk bag in the milk, and you saw that small vine that was, now it's a huge creeper, and you know, and then given direction, you'll pass Kali Yagat, you'll pass Kaishagat, where this happens and that happens. So that's Hamsadutta. That book was written before Rupa Goswami met Lord Chaitanya. So he wasn't an ordinary bhakta, but he was introduced as new. And then he began, Lord Chaitanya had him chant this poetry. And Ramananda Roy was Rasika Vaishnava. He knew poetics. He was such himself, written so many plays. So he kept on asking technical questions. Do you have this kind of introduction? Because Sanskrit poetics is very complex. It's different types of introductions. And then Rupa Goswami started to chant this poetry. You know, he asked him about introduction, and he asked him about the flute, and he asked him about Krishna and Bhava and Prem. And he's giving these beautiful verses. Tande tandavani ritim talabhyate karna kroda kanda. We had this beautiful verse with alliteration about the holy name. We don't know how much nectar is in this holy name. When we chant in our tongue, we wish for many, many tongues. When we hear it in our ears, we wish for many, many ears. When it enters into the courtyard of our heart, the senses become inert. We can't imagine how much nectar is in this. And I'm just saying in these two syllables, but tunde tandavani ritim talabhyate, it's like karna, kroda, kandambani. It's the ultimate verse of alliteration and metaphor, and it's so beautiful. One after another. And then finally, Ramananda Roy says, how has he understood this? Because Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa, Mano Bhishtam, how does he understood the secret? How has he understood the secret of his mind? How has he understood the secret of his mind? And then Rupa Goswami, Lord Chaitanya says, because I noted him because of his qualities. And in the purport, Prabhupada makes an interesting point. How did he note the qualities? By the service he did. He recognized him for his service. And that's how you understand God, by bhakti. And I make this point many, many times, that when you give yourself to someone, when you give your inner heart, your mano-bhishtam, your mind's secrets to someone else, they can do one of two things better than anybody else. They could serve you or they can exploit you. So who are you going to give your mind to? You're only going to give your mind to someone who loves you. And how will you know they love you? Because it will be expressed in their attitude of service. So when I was explaining, because I was explaining this, we were going to speak about something in the Ras Leela, which was probably 5% of my class. 95% was the qualification to hear it. But I said that this is the qualification. It's not that it can be understood intellectually any more than you can't understand a person intellectually. You can understand a person by loving them. And when you love them, they give themselves to you. And this is the process. And then the other realization I shared with them, it's really nice here. I have a great place to chant. It's quiet in the morning and I have quite a bit of time to do it. And when I was chanting, I thought that the best thing I can do here is each round meditate on our Guru Parampara, Prabhupada, including senior Vaishnavas that inspired me, and then to Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then I had this realization. I'm meditating on them, but am I fully understanding them? Because I realize what happens is we filter things through our own understanding. And I've always said this point, it's not just enough to speak the truth. You have to speak the truth in a way it can be understood. And that's what I was marveling about Prabhupada's Krishna book, because he had to do these two things at once. He had to explain the Ras Leela, but simultaneously, he had to work on our frame of reference so that we could actually not misunderstand it, not filter it through our misconceptions and our dirty heart. So it was very expert how Prabhupada did that. And then I said something that was very interesting that shows how your perception of God and your perception of everything is very much dependent on your previous experiences. And you filter things through your prejudices and your previous experience and your samskaras. So I was meditating, I was praying to Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur that let me understand you as you are, beyond whatever I project according to my own prejudices and my filter of my intelligence. And then I thought of a very interesting example. I had this interest in what's called apologetics, which means a reasonable defense of theism. And because I had an interest in that, the best people at that are the Christian scholars. And I used to watch these debates between the top atheists and these Christian scholars. And there was one particular Christian scholar that the atheists were afraid to debate. He was such a pure soul and such a good rhetorician and so logical. His mind was amazing. His name was William Lane Craig. So I was watching these debates, and an interesting point came up that I was reading, that there were 4 horsemen. That's an English expression. When I gave the class yesterday, they didn't know what I was talking about. The 4 horsemen of atheism. It's an English expression when there's people that are great in anything, of the 4 horsemen of who represent something. Of modern atheism is Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, and Dennis Dennett. And then when you research their their lives, and then you research the lives of every other prominent atheist, whether it's Marx or John Paul Sartre or any famous atheist, they all had problems with their father. Every single one of them. So I was just wondering, some of the Bhakti Siddhanta is so strong. Bhakti Siddhanta is so strong. I like your point, Mother Lakshmi. My realization is that that one reason that Prabhupada's Acharya, he knew our prejudices and can explain around them even before we realized they were there. That's so expertly done, especially when I'm reading so they're all, so I thought like, okay, you're meditating on, if someone meditates on Bhakti Siddhanta and he's like Acharya Guru, maybe if they had problems with their father, that they wouldn't understand it. So I was just saying, I'm not saying that's my problem. By Krishna's grace, a great relation with my father, but that's it. So it was such a nice meditation on the acharyas to actually understand them properly. Anyway, so this is Mādhavendra Puri's devotional service to Vishnu is indescribable. By Krishna's mercy, he was always fully empowered. Krishnera Prasade Sarva Kala Purna Shakti. Sarva Kala, of all time, Purna Shakti. He had full Shakti at all time. By Krishna's mercy. And that's when you have full Shakti. You have full Shakti, not by your own power, but when you become an instrument for God's power. And then he could work wonders through you. Just think of Prabhupada when he first comes to America, and you just can't appreciate what he was trying to accomplish with what he had. And he's on the East Coast, so the Western civilization, like he never saw before, is facing him, and it's surcharged with opposition. And then, he says, I'm an insignificant beggar. And then he says, make me dance, make me dance, make me dance. But this is very interesting. When Prabhupada passed away, they had a function for him 11 days after he passed away. And I was coming upstairs in the Gurukul building, and Jayapataka was coming downstairs, and he said he just called Srila Maharaj, Prabhupada's godbrother, and he said Srila Maharaj said that Prabhupada was a Shaktavesh avatar for preaching. And what does Shaktavesh avatar means? It means a living entity who is empowered by God to do something as if God was doing it. As if God was doing it. So our understanding, whether Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived on the Jaladuta or Srila Prabhupada arrived from the Jaladuta, the pastime wouldn't be different, because Prabhupada was invested with that potency. So here, Krishnera Prasad, by the mercy of Krishna, Sarva Kala Purna Shakti. That's nice. I'm wondering, it'd be a nice thing to write about Prabhupada on a Vyas Puja offering. Krishnera Prasade Sarva Kala Purna Shakti. Sarva Kala, all times Purna Shakti. Otherwise, he couldn't do what he did. So now we're looking at Mādhavendra Purī and Sarva Kala Purna Shakti. So we're going to see what that looks like. And then Krishna's Kaviraj says, now hear attentively the auspicious narration, how Advaita became his disciple. Before the advent of Lord Chaitanya, the entire world was devoid of devotional service to Vishnu. Vishnu Bhakti Shunya, 0. Sabha Achilasam, the whole world was devoid of Krishna Bhakti. But Tahene o Madhavendra Chaitanya Kripa Prema Shruka Shindu Maje Basinas. But yet by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, even at that time, Mādhavendra Purī floated in an ocean of ecstatic love. So he was basically alone, but he had this realization. Yes, this is Vrindavan Das Thakur. This is the Caitanya-bhāgavata, not the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it's something special. So somehow or other, I'm not sure of his story of how he became empowered, but somehow Kala, Sarvakala Purna Shakti. He had all this Shakti. And he always floated. He was unique in an ocean of ecstatic love. Niravadi Deha Roma Harsha Ashru Kampa Hunkara Garjana Mahahasya Stamba. These are all the astika sattvika bhavs, all the involuntary ecstatic reactions, as mentioned, is always decorated with hairs standing on end. You don't say now. You can say, now let me dance, now let me embrace, now let me look. You can't say, now let me at the hairs stand on end. So his body was always decorated with hairs standing on end, tears shivering, roaring, thundering, laughing, becoming stunned in perspiration. Niravadi, the Niravadi, the term's being used again and again. It means always. Niravadi Govindera Dhyane, always meditating on Govinda. Nahi Bhaya. Apane Onajane Ki. And he did not know what he was doing, besides meditating on Krishna. And that's the idea of the highest level of devotion, that you're so absorbed in Krishna consciousness, the level of samadhi. I said this many times, and I read this in the Yoga Sutras, that the samadhi is, this level of samadhi is higher than this last stage, jhana. Although jhana is described like when oil flows, there's no space in between. So one's meditation at jhana is unbroken. And it's unbroken in samadhi. But what is the difference? On the level of samadhi, you're not cognizant of anything outside that meditation. And that's what's going to be described here. He did not know what he was doing. Even while walking on the road, he would dance in ecstasy and chant the name of Krishna. People come to this platform where they're always absorbed. Somehow their heart is purified and they have full faith in Krishna and they're feeling this great ecstasy, and it's always expressed. Kakano Vahena Sayananda Murchohoy Duitina Prahareo Dehi Boyanoi. Sometimes he would lose consciousness in ecstasy for 6 to 9 hours. Yes, Manushanam Sahasreshu Kastid Yatati Siddhe. It's very rare. Even those who are achieving a very high level, this is rare. This is completely absorbed, Mahabhagavat on the highest level of Mahabhav. And he's just absorbed to the highest level. So this is, sometimes while absorbed in feelings of separation, he would shed tears like streams of the Ganges. Such topics are certainly wonderful. So one of the astika sattvika bhavs is crying. And crying is the result of very intense emotion. So he's feeling such separation from Krishna that the tears are just flowing without stop. Sometimes he would laugh loudly, and sometimes in the mellowest ecstatic love, he would forget to dress. They never elaborate on that. In this way, Madhavendra enjoyed the happiness of Krishna consciousness, yet he was most unhappy to see that the world was devoid of devotional service. Bhakti shunya loka. In the whole world, bhakti shunya loka, deke, and he saw this. Bhakti shunya loka deke, he saw bhakti shunya, no shunya, bara duki. And he was very, very unhappy. In this verse from Vilap Kushmanjali, where Raghunath Das Goswami is offering prayers to his gurus. And when he gets to Sanatana Goswami, he gives that verse. Vairagya yug bhakti risham priyatnai apayam mamara bipsamandham kripambariya paraduka duki Sanatanastam prabham asayami. Vairagya yug bhakti, devotion enriched with renunciation from this world. Vairagya yug bhakti rasampiyatnai apaya mamana bipsama. But I was unwilling to take it because it's antithetical to the very reason we're embodied, that we've been fortifying since time immemorial. And now we're told that this ecstasy is something else. And we don't have the attraction for that something else, because this has to be given up. Muktir hidva yata rupam sarupena vivastita. Muktir hidva yata. You give up the externals, and this is what mukti is. You become situated in your sarup, but it's a shift, and it's a shift. It's not forced. It's vishya vartante niraharasyana visoram. There's a higher taste involved, but there could be some struggle. The highest happiness is not what we are attached to. And we can't get that into our minds. So Raghunath Das Goswami says, I was unable to take this, but he forced me to do it. Therefore, Vairagya bhakti rasampiyatnaya paya mamara bipsam kripambudhirya paraduka duki. Therefore, kripambudhir, he's an ocean of mercy. Paraduki duki, he has no suffering, but he suffers for the suffering of others. So it's Mādhavendra Puri's ecstasy is being described, but also his unhappiness. It's mixed with, because he sees others are devoid of Krishna consciousness, and they go together. I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that, bhakti is towards God, and when it's reflected towards the living entity, it's called compassion. And they're connected because bhakti means an open heart, and if you're in the world and callous to all the suffering, the heart closes. So therefore, when Bhakti is Narottam Das Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Jiva Doi, Krishna Nam, Sarva Dharma Sa, Jiva Doi, Krishna Nam, the greatest compassion. Jiva Doi, Krishna Nam, Sarva Dharma Sar. Sarva Dharma Sar means the essence of all Dharma. The essence of all Dharma is showing compassion. And we do that by the best way, by giving the holy name of Krishna. He would daily think about people's welfare. His desire was that Krishna would advance. No one knew anything about the festivals related to Krishna or the all-night chanting of Krishna's names and glories. When I had this wonderful we had this wonderful feast. I was talking to Dhanurdhara Swami before that. You can't see it so good, but it's quite good. 1 second. I'll just show you, it's really nice. Dhanurdhara Swami was serving the sweets.
So it's the outreach introduction.
Okay. What I want to talk about is before that, I went to speak to him for an hour and he was just thinking is, how do people live without thoughts of Krishna? What is life like when you don't have God? And we had a whole discussion of that. And you know, I actually saw one debate where that's one theistic scholar said, but I told him that this philosophy professor oh, it's getting late. This philosophy professor in Boston, he told me that people don't agree with the existential philosophers, but they admire their integrity because they're consistent with their views. Life has no meaning. It ends in nothingness. And therefore, your honest choice is whether to live or to kill yourself. That's their integrity. So, what is it without God? Without God, without a conception of eternality, you're on death row, eternal death row. That's it. It ends in non-existence. And it's an existential malaise. It's such it's despondent. Okay. Jamuna Jaya, you have anything you remember from today?
Yes, Haribol Maharaj, thank you for a wonderful class. Thank you for sharing the videos. Those are really super sweet to see all of you there with the sweets.
Yeah.
I really loved your comment about who are you giving your mind to? I just really love that so much because you're giving your mind to either higher things or lower things. You don't think of it that way. So that was such a beautiful point. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you. Class was so wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
I know.
So many different things I want to talk about. First, that documentary, Social Dilemma. I think the thing that was most notable for me, after I had watched that, is how all those senior management officials in those companies did not allow any of their children any screen time because they knew. I found that to be pretty interesting. Also, I want to remind you, as you were showing us these pictures of all these wonderful sweets, of Dhritarashtra's brother, who tried to get him to go to the forest for the remaining part of his life. And when his brother offered him all these wonderful foods and sweets and very rich foods, how he very kindly refused it and reminded him that he's used to a bland diet now.
Well, I'm committing the seventh offense against health. The seventh offense against health is to abuse your eating on the basis of a health retreat that's coming up. I'm going to be doing a punch karma.
Okay. Well, I was shaking my head, but okay.
This is Lord Chaitanya's movement.
All right.
I was actually thinking that too, because these are people I know for so many years and they're inviting me. And I thought the higher principle than health.
They shouldn't eat it either.
What?
They should not eat sweets either.
That's right.
You want to be the highest mercy, then you could tell them also that they shouldn't eat sweets.
I'm pretty good. I just ate one slice of lemon meringue pie today. That's all. No, yeah. I eat simple in the morning and nothing in the evening.
When you get older.
Anyway, I was with people my age.
Right, when you get older, it becomes critical. That's the thing. It's critical
Hey,
for
look,
all.
I was, invited for the pizza party with Bhakti Vigyan Goswami and Ranjan Swami, and I was so disappointed. I thought, I'm going to be eating there, and no one's going to be, I'm just going to go like, what I'm saying. I want to eat with someone that can keep up with me, so it doesn't look so bad. But they kept on eating. They kept on eating. I said, this is pretty good. But to their credit, they walked 30 minutes to get there and walked back 30 minutes.
At least 30, yeah.
Okay.
The last thing, Maharaj, that, you said that about how you can't understand a person intellectually, and you're also always very fond of saying that, that love is not rational and it's not logical. And it's so true, because like I sometimes can't figure out why it is that I love some of the people that I do love. So it's just not rational, but it's an interesting point.
There may be good reasons to love people, I mean, in one sense, but once you love them, then it can't be dictated by reason. You can't have a cause.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Maharaj.
Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Gumaraj, Tota Gopinath here.
Kishore Radha, Priya.
Hey, okay, the whole family. Haribo.
Haribo.
Maharaj, I'd like to say I'd be happy to eat pizza with you, and
Okay. Anyway, I'm not, it's just coming. I'm not organizing it. I'm just invited. I guess because I haven't been here for so long. And yeah. Okay. Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Who's that?
Go ahead.
Okay, Gail.
Yeah, well, I just always love the point that you just now made, that, you might initially have causes for love, I guess, or reasons for love, but once you get to the platform of love, then you don't need any more reasons.
Well,
You just
then,
love.
then love means unconditional. Okay, thanks, Gail.
Yeah. Oh, Maharaj, I don't know if Mother Savitri knows that you're there, because she's been asking me about you.
Yeah,
lately.
tomorrow, see, now you're gonna prove it. Tomorrow, I'm going to her house for prasadam. What would it be like if I refused? You tell them, Gail.
I don't think you have that option, Maharaj. So it's a moot point.
It would be horrible if I refused her, right?
But why would you even think of it?
Because all these health gurus are telling me I shouldn't go.
Oh, no. Krishna will
Tell them
protect
in
you.
advance.
No. Krishna will protect you, Maharaj. Don't worry about the guru. Don't worry about the gurus.
Well, I'll worry about it after a little while, but Savita Bhattacharya, you not only get the Shukta and the things, you get the highest philosophy of Krishna consciousness. I mean, she's such an amazing person. She's so happy that I'm coming,
I know. She's been talking about
Okay.
hosting you for some time.
Okay, thank you for supporting me, Gail.
Oh, definitely. You got
But I
full back. Full back.
I just take a little, I just taste everything, that's it. Sometimes touch is sweet and put it to my head. Okay. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Garaj, Govinda. Thank you for class.
Haribo.
I support the pizza party too,
What?
I support the pizza party too. We can have a Jersey pizza party.
Hey, listen, guys, I like pizza too, okay?
No, you have to understand, Bhakti Devi, when I got sick, cured me
Yeah, right.
with diet and acupuncture, and I was very sick. So I do respect your opinion, but this is just what's called emergency dharma.
I'm glad that you're getting taken good care of, Garaj.
I'm great. I'm walking a lot,
Great.
When I go to Niranjan, so it's 30 minutes away. I walk through the forest of Bengal on the bank of the Jalangi. It's at least 30, 40 minutes there and back.
Nice.
So,
No snakes, right?
You can't eat that much anyway. Yeah, okay. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it's Missy. Thank you so much for class. And I saw the social dilemma too. I like how you opened up with that. And I think to piggyback off of Jamuna, I liked your point of when you give your mind to someone, there's two things that they can do. They can either exploit you or love you. And it's amazing that so many of us today, we put our faith in all of the wrong things. And I think like in this past year, especially just seeing like politically where people are, that they're putting their faith in that, or the journalists behind it, it's just destroyed families and friendships. And so when you opened with that, it really hit home. And then your other point, you said it at your Vyasa Puja of, when you're speaking the truth, it's also about how you relate it to someone and knowing that they have those prejudices from their own experiences. And again, that's why I love your classes so much. It's just because you just relate it so well.
You're going to like an article I'm writing, not tomorrow. Well, I'm going to start writing it for next week, called "Relationship is More Important Than Being Right."
Yeah, I can't wait to read that then.
Okay.
Because we need to hear it more. So thank you so much, Maharaj.
Missy. Okay, anybody else?
Hello, Maharaj. This is Isabel. Thank you for class. Hare Krishna.
Haribo, Isabel. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Very good. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to head out now. But just so you think I'm just not eating, I'm going to be getting up at 1:30 and just a little breakfast at 9. So I have like 1:30, what is that, 7.5 hours just chanting and hearing. So I get hungry by the time 1 o'clock.
Enjoy tomorrow, Maharaj.
And I'm going to be very careful. It's a Bengali bottom, a lot of vegetables. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. All right, bye.